All right, welcome back to the program. My guest is joining me right now, Joachim MacEbong, who is the senior government analyst at Stears Business. He joins us from Lagos. Hello, Joachim, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Nancy, once again.
Good morning, Joachim. Let's get started with the ministerial, appointments. That's the assignments of their portfolios now. What's your view about the placements? Are you satisfied with the placements that you've seen so far? What were your intelligent guesses before this assignments, and did they meet your expectations?
So I think there are two ways to look at it. First, you need to ask yourself about the quality of the list in the first place. And before you then talk about the placement of the names that are already on the list. So I think that from the second part of it, my one surprise was that there is no more Niger Delta Ministry. You would have expected someone like former Governor Wike to lead the, the ND ministry, but that hasn't happened. He is now the new FCT minister. A few other ones, appear to have followed correctly. Lateef Fagbemi, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. You have Wale Ejuanji, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. You have someone like Dr. Bosu Tijani as the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy. So there are a number of based on the antecedents of the nominees that essentially fell correctly. But one key surprise is definitely the removal of the Niger Data Ministry. Which I'm sure that some stakeholders may have some questions about going forward. A few other ones are weirder, are stranger. You have Dele Alaki, who you would have thought would have been Minister of Information, is now in solid minerals. And then you have two governors. You have Governor Badaru, former Governor Badaru from Jigawa, and former Governor Matawale of Zamfara as the Minister of Defense and Minister of State for Defense, respectively. There is a glaring mismatch there. Some people will tell you that what you need at ministerial level is a managerial competence and whatnot, and not really having to be an expert in the particular topic. However, you then have to ask yourself what the antecedents of some of those people are regarding the portfolios they currently handle. So, for example, Matawale in Zamfara, the security situation essentially collapsed in Zamfara under his governorship. And so you have to ask yourself what he's going to do differently as Minister of State for Defense. And there are many other questions like that.
Even with what we've seen so far, that the president would have, because from your even own analysis, there were some misplacements, so to speak. Do you think that we can actually accurately, even from the list of these people, actually put square pegs in round holes? Should the minister have chosen them based on their competencies, as it were, perhaps academic competencies or even certifications? For example, Dela Alake, which you also mentioned, many people thought that he was going to go to the information ministry, but according to the president's wisdom, he took him to solid minerals. So would that have been possible, as it were, that you're a medical doctor, so you should definitely go to the health ministry, like Betta Edu, who is the minister, of course, of humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation now. That is a well-known doctor, commissioner of health in her state before, and women leader of APC. Perhaps, okay, she would have been women affairs, while perhaps you get Anuju Kennedy, who has been known. In fact, she has a program. I don't know if you have it now. She had a program on this station, helping people pay their bills, humanitarian program. So a lot of people would think, okay, Madam Uju should go for humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation. So would that have been possible for Mr. President to do?
So I think that one of the things, if you say that the nominee does not have to have a track record in the particular portfolio that they are going to be given, the question then becomes, how do you assess their managerial capacity and competence in other roles that they have taken up before? And I think that the answer to that question is the kind of uh, thing that would have been very helpful, for example, at the ministerial screening in the Senate. So if these portfolios were assigned prior to a screening, then you can have them, then you can have the senators ask them questions relevant to their particular portfolios, and then from there, from their responses, you then begin to ascertain if they have a working knowledge of some of the issues on in the various ministries, and also to see how you can ascertain as well how well they are likely to perform in those portfolios, given their records in other places. So I think that these are the two questions that would, that you typically need to answer, and you just have to hope that in the assignment of the various portfolios that this was taken into account. As always, the truth of the taste of any pudding is in the eating, and we are about to dig in now from next week.
Is this actually a bad precedent that the president is working on to be still the Minister of Petroleum? And we've seen that the Ministry of Petroleum now like broken into two. I'm trying to understand it. Minister of State Gas Resources, Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lukubiri, and Minister of State Gas Resources, Mr. Ekbo, there, with Mr. President still as Minister of Petroleum.
Yes, Nancy, it is probably a bad precedent simply because Mr. President and any president for that matter already has a pretty decent load of work to do with at any rate, right? And so you have to then ask yourself the bandwidth that Mr. President will have to take on the specific issues of the petroleum ministry. There's that. As for the issue of gas being taken out of the petroleum portfolio, and it may make some sense. The reason why it may make some sense is because gas, for example, has a direct connection to electricity supply, and also just to ensuring that there is enough gas and that the gas supply chain and the various things that Nigeria needs to basically fulfill its potential in resources is met. And also, you are also aware that there are various projects concerned with gas infrastructure in the country, and expanding that infrastructure across the West African coast. So perhaps there's even a case there to bring out that portfolio and enable someone to work specifically, on that particular topic, because as you're also aware, Nigeria did have the gas reserves necessary to become a gas superpower, and it just now we just now need to understand how far and how effective this particular move is going to be.
Yes, because it's even we are considered more of even a gas country because we have more gas reserves, yet we are not using it. Perhaps
Yes,
some analysts were
absolutely.
also of the view that why should Mr. President still stick as a petroleum minister? It seems as if you're still giving attention to oil and to petroleum, even though the rest of the world is moving beyond oil. Why not he be Minister of Solid Minerals, for example, or a
And not
minister of any other thing? Yeah.
Precisely, Nancy. And I think that, like you rightly said, it's possible that we are falling into the trap again of focusing unnecessarily unduly on petroleum resources. We are all aware of the various moves to decarbonize, to move away from petroleum. Yes, even though petroleum will definitely be used, on some level in the present and in the future. On the other hand, there are many emerging areas, like you have also rightly said, solid minerals with regard to the rare earth metals, and so on, and again gas as that transition field there. And so you just have to wonder. And also on top of that, you also have the share of crude oil, and just that petroleum aspect there of our GDP has been declining over time. And so you just want to ask yourself, what the justification is precisely for that undue focus on the petroleum industry that well.
Oh, okay. The network is frozen. Let's try to reconnect with Joachim and let's continue our conversation on Mr. President's cabinet. Of course, the ministers will be sworn in on Monday and they have their work cut out for them. 45 ministers. If we can take that chart again, let's quickly do that while we reconnect with Joachim. Let's see if we can reconnect with Joachim. Okay, we have the Minister of Finance, and I guess that almost many of us have actually seen Mr. President's list. Of course, the minister's appointments there. So you can see Wale Edu there, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. We also have Minister of Power, Adedayo Adelabu, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, Minister of State, Health and Social Welfare, Tunisia Alausa. Did I get that right? Okay. Minister of Transportation, former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Anete. You can actually see their faces there. You can actually see their faces on the screen. Minister of Works, David Umahi. Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy. Minister of State, Labor and Employment, Nkiru Onyejocha. Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosu Tijani. I don't understand why we have innovation in the two ministries. Or is the innovation Mr. President is thinking about different there? I think that needs to really be cleared between those two ministries. Minister of State, Environment and Ecological Management, Ishaik Salako. Okay, do we have Joachim back now? All right, Joachim, if you can hear me, can you land on your earlier comments?
Yes, I was saying that in an era where the importance of crude oil and of petroleum appears to be reduced a little bit, the just the focus there on by Mr. President is something that perhaps is a bit curious.
Mm. Okay. I would like you to comment on what I just mentioned. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Technology, Economy, Bosu Tijani. Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji. I don't know if you understand why innovation is in
Yeah,
those two ministries. Are
it's
innovations for them different, or the government didn't take note of that? I know that when Pantami was there as Minister of Digital Economy, I think innovation was also added.
no. I think it was just digital economy. That's why they named the ministry CODE, so code. I'm not sure. Again, there's a science and technology aspect to to innovation. Like obviously because you have to use applied science to essentially come up with the various solutions in other areas. But I guess the one for communication and digital economy is a bit more focused on some of the software aspects of it.
Okay.
Telecommunications and things like software engineering and more of just that tech, this current tech wave that we have, of software, of apps, and so on. I guess the science and tech aspect is perhaps
Hardware.
more of a hard science.
Okay.
Yes. Like,
Okay.
so
Okay.
like it's more of a hard science kind of thing, and so we are having to move in those two directions. Perhaps it might have been a bit too much to put together in one portfolio, and then have perhaps one person take the science and tech part, and then the other person basically deal with the other aspects of this digital economy that have very specific differences with regard to how you use things like um, network effects, for example, of apps, and just that broader digital economy as a whole. So I think that there's a distinction to be made there.
Okay, so that's about software and hardware. So thank you for bringing in that perspective, because for science and technology, I know that the agencies, even under them, deal with a lot of hardware in terms of even innovation. We saw what was in Aseni, yes, under science and tech did during the COVID time in terms of innovation to fill the gap. All right, let's talk about training for these ministers, because it seems now that from what we have, of course, not all the ministers from analysis from many Nigerians. Do you think that now there should be trainings perhaps for these ministers moving on, or a retreat? I know they should. Other ministers used to have retreat. I don't know about these ones, and when that retreat we hold, then how do you think that Mr. President should also measure their KPIs?
Two very good questions. Thank you, Nancy. I think that first of all, you would expect, playing at the level they are currently playing at, that these ministers would have solicited briefs already, not just from the PEMSECs of the various ministries who are supposed to basically read them into the current activities of the ministry and the challenges of the ministry and so on, but also solicit the views of other stakeholders in order to understand the kinds of things that the ministry should be doing or attempting to do. And then split up those things into things that are more urgent and less urgent, and things that are achievable in the short term, achievable in the medium term, and things that may be, a longer term objectives. And then also understanding the various stakeholders around those various initiatives. You would expect that this is happening as we speak. So, for example, one good example that I know of, I mean, so from a third party, is that the Minister of Arts and Culture, Anna Tubusawa, or has in her position already a sort of a policy document to try to guide some of our action. So that is the kind of thing that you need to hit the ground running in a particular ministry, and then to understand all of those things there. And also the second bit about the ministerial retreats and all of that. I think that it's just important, because a large cabinet, and because it's a large cabinet, you have a greater potential for some of the clashes that we have seen, over time in Nigerian government at the top there. And so perhaps that ministerial retreat really should be focused on everybody understanding their role and just trying to build a rapport among the various ministers, so that when they need to collaborate on certain things, as many of them are likely to need to do, then you will be able to get the cooperation necessary from the other ministries in order to achieve shared goals. I think that should be the primary reason, the primary the primary point of the retreat. And also about KPIs, and that's also a great question. I don't know that that the Nigerian government does KPI. What you would think that will happen now from the retreat, for example, is that you have people aligning the KPIs along short and medium and long-term targets, and then aligning the various ministries that you need to work with in order to achieve some of those goals. And then you use the achievement of those short, medium, and long-term KPIs as a basis for rating the ministers, and as a basis for understanding who should stay, or who should go, a la the weakest link.
Okay, Joachim, let's quickly move over to the NEC meeting that was held yesterday, where we saw that 5 billion naira has been approved for each state, the 36 states, as well as Abuja. So if you put that together, about 185 billion naira, and 5 trucks of rice. I'm trying to find out how many bags of rice in each truck. But where my mind is just going to is, if you're buying cement, a big truck of cement, one of these popular brands, perhaps 600 bags of cement is in one truck. So does that mean that each state is getting like 3,000 bags of rice? From my own analysis, I don't know what it is. What do you think about that? Is this a short-term measure? And I don't know if you're clear as to where the federal government is also getting the money, 185 billion naira, as support for the states. Is it coming from the palliatives announcement earlier by Mr. President? Do you have clarity on that?
Yes, I do have clarity.
Okay.
I have read a report, from one media outlet that I think is reliable, that says that the 5 billion is more of a loan. Now that 5 billion that is going to each stage is supposed to help them procure about 100,000 bags of rice and 40,000 bags of maize and fertilizer to cushion the effect of food shortage. But now there is a loan in there, and that loan portion of it is about 2 billion naira. That according to this report has already been given to them, and so now they will need to begin to repay, to repay that loan after a 3-month moratorium and repay that loan over a loan tenure of about 20 months or so. Now, I think that first of all, just to go from what you said just now, um, it is not part of the initial palliatives that were announced by the president. I believe that is on July 31st, or is that July 30th?
Yes, July
So this one
31st.
is coming from, yes, so I mean, so that's coming from somewhere else. This would also, this would basically make you understand why it is a loan, instead of perhaps a grant. The other thing that this also drives home to me is just how little money there is to go around for things like this. Nigeria is a big country, millions and millions of people. But then the best you can do is, 5 billion per state, 185 billion naira, 100,000 bags of rice. Look, these things don't go anywhere, and it is directly connected to the federal government's lack of financial muscle necessary to do some of these things. And so the federal government has clearly understands that it needs to build up that financial muscle fairly quickly, um, not just for the short term things, but the other things that it needs to do. And so that is why you are seeing a lot of the talk and the movement around things like tax reform, and so on and so forth. But I just hope the other thing I hope that little there is also does end up getting to some of the people that need some of these things instead of just basically being cornered by a few people.
Okay, I think Joachim, let's leave it at that now. Though so many issues that I would have asked, but there's
So
little
many.
time. Yes, so many, so
Yeah.
many, many, many issues. It's as if the more you ask, the deeper the hole, or the more. but
Precisely.
but there's
It really is an onion. It's an onion. As you
exactly
open
just
everything, it will go down and down. Yes,
exactly,
absolutely.
and we don't have enough time for it on television. I'm afraid we'll just continue to keep that conversation going. So have a fantastic weekend, and we'll speak again sometime soon.
You too, Nancy. Take care.
All right.